On the 1st of July 2020, we've had our Kona electric car for 12 months. This video covers the ownership experience and costs and issues incurred during those 12 months. So stay tuned. Hi, John here. 12 months on from owning our first electric car, what's it been like? Or should I say, what's it been like? Subtitles. We're a two-car electric family, no internal combustion engines for our day-to-day vehicles. A full disclosure, we do have two classic cars that have petrol engines, big V8s actually. For this video, I'll split it into three parts: issues with the car, overall ownership experience, and running costs. And the time code for each part is in the description below. Our other EV is a Tesla Model 3, which we've had for 10 months at the time of recording this, which means we've got a comparison to gauge the Kona against. However, this isn't going to be a comparison on top speed, so 0 to 60 mile per hour times, cubic luggage space, that type of video. This is looking at the car from an everyday usage perspective. It's our daily driver. What's it been like? We collected our Kona 64 Premium SE EV on the 1st of July 2019, and we collected it from Spirit Hyundai in Northampton. I placed the order for the car via Hyundai's website on the 10th of November 2018. The delivery date was about 2 months earlier than quoted, with a delivery of September 2019. Our mileage on the 1st of July 2020, after 1 year of ownership, was 9,849 miles. So, what are the issues with the car? Well, actually, none. Nada. Nothing. Zilch. Nout. No issues at all. Nothing's broken, nothing's gone wrong or stopped working. The pre-delivery inspection was good and there were no faults or issues that needed to be rectified. So, all good there from a no issues report perspective. I guess the only minor point worth mentioning is the fact that the maps and the navigation software are out of date. A trip to the dealer is required to update them. So old-fashioned. On the plus side, no issues with the car is actually a tick in the box for reliability and build quality. So, full marks to Hyundai for that. In terms of the ownership experience, the Kona is certainly a comfortable car to drive. It's flexible with its hatchback and folding rear seats, making it ideal if you need to load something large or awkward into the car. There's just the two of us and it's perfectly adequate for all we need in terms of our journeys and what have you. We have had 5 adults in the car a couple of times, but it is a bit of a squeeze in the back, 3 up. It's certainly nippy, it goes round bends really well, probably partly due to the low centre of gravity. It's great on acceleration, but then aren't most EVs. It does struggle with wheel spin if you gun it in sports mode from a standing start. It does it in the dry and it's even worse in the wet. A steady progressive foot is certainly the order of the day for acceleration. Once going, you just punt the pedal and it gives you great acceleration for overtaking at almost any speed. It's very easy to park, manoeuvrability, has good all-round visibility, and for day-to-day use it's great. All the controls are simple to use, with a few exceptions, which I'll cover in a bit, and they're easy to find. The hatchback gives a small benefit over the Model 3 when we come to use it for carrying larger items, but that's not that often, to be honest, but certainly useful when you need it to do, like a local run to the recycling tip or something like that. I guess as with most cars, there are some gripes. So it's certainly not all rosy in the Kona garden. The lack of the app, or lack of any app on the phone to control the car, I'd really like to be able to check on the state of charge, preheat the car or pre-cool the car from the app. It seems to me a massive oversight and confirms that many of the EVs on the market are produced by companies whose primary focus is manufacturing, with software development a second, even sometimes a distant second. They're geared up to produce ICE cars, and that presents EVs. Well, I don't know. They feel like a sideline product offer in a lot of cases. I said the controls are easy to use. Well, the scheduled charging screen took me about a week to work out how to actually use it. And I'm not that stupid. I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid. It took me 5 attempts over successive nights to get it to work and charge the car. And probably if I had to do it again, because I don't do it that frequently, I'd possibly get it wrong. Whereas in the Tesla, it's really straightforward and easy. So that brings my point about software manufacture and software design and development. Another thing is the time it takes to find out what the percentage state of charge is on the battery. It's a real oversight in my opinion. When you get into the car and turn it on, you can see the visual charge meter on the right-hand side of the binnacle display. However, I don't find it very helpful. Is it just over a third full, looking at the indicators up the side, which are in 3 sections, 1/3, 2/3 and 3/3? What does it actually mean in terms of how far I can drive? There's no reference to be able to make an informed decision. For reference, it's actually 44% full, 44% state of charge. What I have to do to look at the actual percentage of charge in the battery is to power the car up, which takes 7 seconds for the car to work. And it goes through its power up routine. Then it will allow me to click on the EV button or the favorite button, as we've got it programmed, to show this information. The powering up is so slow. It might not seem like a long time. However, if you just want to see how much charge is in the battery, you have to wait 7 seconds before you can see this information. In the Tesla, I can either look on my phone instantly, or if I go to the car, I open the car door and bam, there's the information. It's before I've even sat in the driver's seat, I can see what the percentage state of charge is and how much range I've got left. Oh yeah, getting charging locations using the in-car mapping software is very poor and has many missing charging points. Now you can update the charging locations in the car using the live update feature. However, you have to be connected to Wi-Fi. It's only useful at the time when you have a Wi-Fi signal. If you've got no signal, you get no live updates. And even the ones you've just downloaded via the Wi-Fi disappear from their list. So, once you lose a signal, that's it. You've just lost all of the updates. I've also found that the live charging locations are not actually accurate. There's loads of missing locations from the list. I know there are more local ones which I can use as public charging points than the ones that are listed. I've got no idea where to get the data from, but it's certainly not accurate, and it leads me to not trusting the data set as an overall. I guess that leads me on to the worst thing about owning the Kona, and that's the all too inconsistent public charging. Now, I'm aware that's not specifically a fault of the Kona, but unfortunately it relates to the ownership of any sort of non-Tesla EV. And I find that sometimes public charging with the Kona has been perfect, and it's worked fine and it's, simple. However, certain companies at certain locations just seem to get pleasure from adding an element of jeopardy to your journey. We now use the Tesla on any long journey that requires charging stop. We used to use the Kona to travel to and from Rushden in Northamptonshire up to Rotherham in the South Yorkshire. And we'd do there and back in a day. And it's a fairly regular journey for us. Jill's mum lives up there. So, once a month or so. And we would charge at least once on that journey. It's a 250-mile round trip. So on paper, you could actually do it without a charging stop. However, in reality, you need to, at least one stop for charging and a sort of comfort break. Otherwise, you're going to arrive back home with between, 5 or 10% state of charge in the battery, and that's just a bit too risky for me. Our route from Rushden to Rotherham and vice versa is normally done on the A1, and sometimes we do it on the M1. And using either route, we've encountered charging issues. Charges with broken connections, charges that were out of order, despite the charging apps saying they were actually working. And then you need various apps on your phone, charge cards in your wallet, just in case. If you know the route and the charges you're going to encounter, then it's, slightly better proposition for you. But take a journey to an unknown location, then it's a bit like a treasure hunt, with the price of being able to match the app or charge card to the charge point once you've found it. And I know this will get better in time, but that better is already here if you're lucky enough to own a Tesla. And on more than a couple of occasions, we've arrived at a second charger because the first charger didn't work or was broken or what have you. We've just, 5% of charge left in the battery. And it's not a great way to travel and have a nice relaxing journey. Hence why we use the Tesla now. In terms of running costs, the only thing we've incurred, sort of out-of-pocket expenses for the car, was £119 for a new tyre that got a puncture in the sidewall from a big nail that went through it. And, that's not really a fault of the car because that could have happened on any car. But for completeness, I thought I would include it in this update. It is actually a very efficient car in terms of its electricity use per mile. And in fact, most of the Southern Korean EVs seem to be really economical and realistic about their real world range. The 64 kilowatt Kona has a 278 mile range. And today our average is 4.4 miles per kilowatt. And that covers our 12 months of driving, which is actually, quite phenomenal. If I put that into some more context for you, you can see how efficient the car is. So from the 1st of July 2019, when we picked up the car, to the end of September 2019, we were doing a daily commute of 110 miles, which is 55 miles each way. This daily commute was on fast dual carriageways and motorways almost door to door. And that type of journey, it's a real killer for an EV in terms of its efficiency. There's precious little opportunity for regenerative braking. The car is typically at constant speed for long periods of time and generally at high speeds as well. And I worked out that just over 50% of our current total mileage was made up from that daily commute. And that makes it even more remarkable that the average of 4.4 miles per kilowatt based on that journey and those travel speeds. Currently, as we potter around local trips, we are averaging 5 miles per kilowatt, sometimes even as much as 6, depending on the journey and the outside temperatures. On the previous daily commute to work, there was no range anxiety at all. Remember that the car has 278 miles of range at 100% state of charge. And we would charge the car, like every other day. Charging was primarily done at home during off-peak rates of 5 pence per kilowatt with Octopus Go tariff. And where we worked at the time, there was also 10 charging points for the workers to use. We used the ones at work as a sort of top up, really. But it had an average of 20 pence per kilowatt. Well, not an average, it was 20 pence per kilowatt. So they were a little on the pricey side when we had 5 pence charge available at home. I've had a bit of difficulty working out exactly how much it's cost to charge the car over those past 12 months. As to do that, I would have had to manually record every charge. I have data from the 1st of July through to the end of September 2019. And then we retired, and there was a 3-month gap where I didn't record anything. And I started recording again in January 2020 up until the 12 months on the 1st of July 2020. So the 3-month gap will really have a negligible effect on the costs in terms of what it costs to charge. Because we would have done most of that on excess solar. And remember that we have 2 cars, 2 EVs, so we alternate between the 2 cars, so one can be on charge while we use the other. And then also being retired means we've not actually covered many miles. If you look at our mileage profile, 50% of that total mileage was covered in the 3 months on our daily commute. The remainder has taken 9 months to make up. And we've not really used the car that much since retiring. Obviously, granted, there's been 3 months of lockdown pulled into that figure, whilst we hardly use the car at all. But even so, usage has certainly plummeted. So if we look at the costs for the charging that we did at work, we did 27 charges, 27 charging sessions. And we added 612.22 kilowatt hours for a price of £122.52. As I mentioned earlier, that was fairly expensive at 20 pence per kilowatt. Charging at home, as I mentioned earlier, was either from excess solar, which is obviously free, or between 12:30 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. at 5 pence per kilowatt using the Octopus Go tariff. And we had this tariff from the 1st of July 2019 to the 6th of July 2020. We've actually now moved across to the Octopus Agile tariff, and sort of early indications that it's a lot cheaper for us than the Go tariff, but I'll cover that in a separate video. Most of the public charging we did was free vend. We spent less than £30 on public charging, mainly because of the issues that we had early on when we started to use public chargers. And as I mentioned, we tended to use it then as a sort of last-ditch method if we needed to charge the car. So if we look at a worst-case scenario for costs, what if all of our 9,849 miles required us to pay for electricity? Which it obviously didn't, but bear with us and let's assume that. Now we know that we paid £122.52 for 612.22 kilowatts, and if we multiply that by our average miles per kilowatt, so it's 612.22 times 4.4 equals 2,694 miles. And if we take those 2,694 miles from our total of 9,849 miles, it leaves us with 7,155 miles. And if we calculate that all those miles were powered by our off-peak 5 pence per kilowatt rate, they weren't, because loads of it was from excess solar, but we'll ignore that for the time being. Let's look at worst case. So then 7,155 divided by 4.4, our average miles per kilowatt, equals 1,626 kilowatts. And then 1,626 kilowatts times 5 pence equals £81.31. So this brings us to a total of the 122 from previous and the 81.31 we just worked out, to a total of £203.65. £1,083 for 9,849 miles of motoring. About 2p per mile, basically. And that's worst case scenario. It's more likely to be about half that because we haven't factored any solar charging in there. So yeah, very cheap to run. What about servicing costs? Well, whilst I've not paid for any servicing costs yet, I have taken out a service plan with Spirit Hyundai, my local dealership. It's very old school. They give you a service book and they'll actually void your warranty if it's not stamped and regularly serviced by a reputable garage. And Spirit Hyundai contacted me about setting up a service plan. I've had service plans before with other cars in the past, so it's not something that's new to me or I'm against. However, I did push back on this one when they initially asked me, because they gave me the same price as a petrol and diesel car service plan. And I explained that we also have a Tesla which actually has no service schedule. Tesla say bring it in when there's a problem with it. That's as simple as that. And I explained that, apart from normal service checks and safety checks on things like tyres and brakes and brake fluid change every 2 years and cabin air filter, there's not really much to do on an annual service. So they went away and came back with a much more realistic service price, which is £68.04 for the service in years 1, 3 and 5, and then £144.24 for years 2 and 4, which makes a total of £624.14. And I got a discount of that of £47.18, which gives me a total of £576.96 for 5 years of servicing, which was a little bit more palatable. I will actually do another video about the servicing once I've had the annual service done. It's booked in next week. I have a bit of a story to tell about the process of booking in the car for a service, so I'll cover that on that video. I guess the question is also you might be considering is, would I buy a Kona again based on what I know now? Which actually is a tough question. If the playing field was exactly the same as when I placed the order, then yes, I would. And what I mean by that is that if today everything was the same as when I placed the order, then yeah, I don't regret buying it when I did. However, there's so many more cars on the market now, which sort of makes it a different proposition. Plus, I've lived with the car for 12 months and I've got the Tesla to compare it against. If I was buying again today, I would choose a base model Tesla Model 3. The prices between the two cars are actually very evenly matched. The 64 kilowatt premium SE Kona model is $38,250, and the base 64 model Kona is $35,900. A base Model 3, a Tesla Model 3, is £40,490 when I check the prices on the 7th of July 2020. And I know the Tesla offers way more for just another 2 to 5 grand, depending on which model you compare it against. So yeah, I would get another Tesla. And to support that, I prefer the ethos and business model that Tesla offer over Hyundai. Hyundai are hanging on to their traditional car dealership business model that they've used for their to sell their ICE cars, and no doubt that works well for ICE cars. But they do need to rethink the whole business model to cater for electric vehicle sales and servicing. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Any questions, drop them down below in the comments. Anything you think I've missed or you don't agree with, then again, please drop them down in the comments and let me know. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you on the next video. All right, take care. Bye.